Vols knocked off UAB, and it was worse than the final score appeared. It was 56-10 in the third quarter, and 3 of the 10 were off a muffed punt. Tennessee jumped on UAB early, and it looks like they are back to their old ways. Jimmy, you and I did a thing on the Sports Source Digital Network 2 months ago talking about what has happened with this first strike offense. We threw out a bunch of different possibilities. One of the possibilities was, well, the quarterback play. Yeah, I think it may be the quarterback play. Let's take a look at some numbers now. All right, first, there's the points in the first quarter by season, 190, 141, 110, 102. You see it drop off. Now you got 62 through 4 games. Look at the average first quarter points. 14.6 down to 10.8 in 2022, then to 8.4 and 7.8. It's 15.5 right now. So you have jumped back up there. Average first drive yards. You're averaging 72. It's four drives is what you've had, but you're averaging 72 yards on those 4 drives. Last year, the entire season, 13 games, you had 4 scores. You've already got 3 in 4 games this year. Jimmy, I'll just start with you. Was this all about the quarterback? Is that it?
It's a whole lot about the quarterback. By the way, I think it's actually 21 points in the first quarter on average, unless I did my math wrong.
Maybe it's wrong.
They're scoring a ton of points. And I remember 2 games into the season, Nick Saban said Joey Aguilar is the perfect fit for this offense. With a sample size of 2 games, I got a feeling somebody at Tennessee told him Joey Aguilar is a perfect fit, and he repeated it.
Yeah.
So, and he has been a great fit. I also think the scripting of plays has been really good. You wondered, has Jim Chaney helped in that regard?
Yes, we just found out this week he's working as an analyst over there.
Correct.
So is Seth Luttrell, who came in off season.
But I think Aguilar, he does look like the perfect fit. He has had no trouble with in understanding the defense and going up tempo and whatever he needs to do in executing what they're doing. I think he is the primary reason that this offense is clicking the way it is.
Josh, the first quarter thing. I mean, if you remember back 2021 and 2022, it got to the point where we would sit there and say, ooh, we hope they got enough points early because it then becomes like a normal game slog. But, boy, early is when you need to jump on them. You're doing that again. Do you agree that it's 90% Aguilar?
Yeah, he is so much of it. So Chris Brazel's better than a year ago, so that's part of it. I think the wide receiver group, the big play potential is more evident with this group. Maybe more consistent protection along the offensive line. But all of that is greater enhanced by the quarterback play. So the ability to hit balls down the field, Chris Brazel's chance to go up and make a play. Every throw is maybe not perfect in stride on the way to the end zone, but it's about giving the receivers a chance to go make a play. And Joey Aguilar has done that, I think, far better than what we've seen in the last couple of seasons.
And they've also made changes to the offense, whether that's Chaney, Luttrell, Halsley, Heupel, whoever. It's no longer just, okay, well, we put the 2 guys way out at the edges and that's all we got. And if you stop that, we don't have a counterpunch. Now they've spent the offseason building counterpunches into this thing. How much of this is Aguilar? How much of this is other stuff? The fact that your first quarter is back to being an avalanche quarter.
Right. I'm going to say other stuff. Again, like I said it a couple of shows before. I think Josh Heupel's coaching with a chip on his shoulder. He is out to prove that he is an offensive mastermind and that his system does work. We talked about it this offseason where they said the offense is going to look different. That right there was a sign to me that Josh Heupel's kind of like analyzed the last 2 years and say, you know what, I think we can do some things better. You're seeing more formations, you're seeing more shifts, more motions.
Motion again.
Yeah. So I think it's more of the other stuff as far as Josh Heupel getting a little bit more creative in his play calling.
Bob Hodge.
I'm going to go it's 50-50. 50% of it is you got a quarterback that works. 50% is everything so far looks better. Every other position group looks better with the exception of running backs where you're good. Last year you were great with Dylan Sampson. You were great at running back. Well, okay, you've fallen off to, hey, really pretty good. So to me it is the quarterback fits, but everything else at this point through 4 games looks like it's better than it was last year.
And healthy at receiver. Healthy at receiver.
Yeah, Aguilar's gotten off to great starts, and the only exception was early against Syracuse. He misfired on a few passes early in that game. Otherwise, I mean, the 14 for 14 against Georgia is ridiculously good. Had a great start against UAB. He has really been accurate and on fire to start these games as well.
You look at Heupel, we talked about a few years ago, you know, some coaches script plays, and obviously, depending on the situation, you're not just going to, well, no, this is what we scripted. But a lot of that scripting is putting different formations out there and different packages, and that way you know how they're going to respond to it. And then I'll come back to this later and change the look of it, but I know what you're going to have on the field, and I can doctor something for that. We wondered early on in Heupel's stay here, man, these first quarters, how much of this is him being able to script that opening quarter? And talking to Dane Davis on the digital network this week, former Vol, he's like, he really doesn't script that much. It's just they go into it as really the first drive, and that's about it. So it's not one of these things where we have 15 plays that we go through. But I do think it is a mix. I mean, Aguilar looks like the biggest chunk of it. It's impossible to look at this and not say the quarterback, and an accurate quarterback. Talking to Justin Hamilton, our former colleague here, who was a defense coordinator, he's now cornerbacks coach for the Patriots. He was talking about the fact that one of the things you missed the last 2 years was just how accurate Hooker was on those short throws. So instead of 2nd and 8, it's 2nd and 4. And you can keep going, keep moving fast. And Aguilar is back to that, I think. Let's talk about the defense. There was a lot of people yesterday who were not happy with the fact that Tennessee gave up 24 points to UAB. I went in expecting to give up 17. They gave up 24. I look at it, though, UAB, in their first 7 drives in the first half, only one went for more than 20 yards. So they had one drive longer than 20. Second half, they had 7 drives. Only 2 were longer than 25 yards. 109 of their 394 yards, so a quarter of their offense, basically, more than a quarter, came in their last 2 drives in the fourth quarter. I wasn't freaked out yesterday. Now, we're going to do another segment where we talk about the defense overall. But yesterday, you're getting a lot of freshmen in there. They got 14 points at the end of this. It was 56-10 at one point. I'm not worried that much about yesterday's performance. Am I wrong, Marlon Walls?
I would say, like, me watching the game, the biggest thing I noticed was there's a lot of cushion that we're giving those receivers. Now, UAB did some things formation-wise to kind of get some guys open, but I did not like the cushion we were allowing them to have. I think we all would have beat Chuck if we tightened down on the receivers a little bit, but, like, they kept drives going because we allowed too much cushion. I don't like our defensive backs playing too far back. I know we was playing some zone, probably trying to protect some guys, trying to help out the freshman corners and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But for me, from a defensive standpoint, I ain't like all the cushion. Let's go ahead and suffocate them, put 70 on them, and get out the game.
Bob.
I think people lose sight of UAB still had its starters in the fourth quarter. I mean, these are college football players. Most of them weren't good enough to play in the SEC, but they're still pretty good football players.
Kitna looks like a guy who could have been a transfer to some other
Kitna looks to
program.
me like a guy who will not be at UAB next year. Somebody else is going to pick him up at a better program, bigger school. So you're putting in your young guys against maybe not as talented guys, but much less experienced than what UAB had on the field. So what happened in the fourth quarter to me is kind of, okay, this is sort of what you expect. It's sort of the reason I don't like these games, is because they get sloppy. You got the big lead and you get sloppy. And to go with what Marlon said, at that point, all I care about is the Cavaliers line.
That's it.
And it didn't work out for me.
Or anybody else.
See, that's where the anger came from.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's not that it's the Cavaliers line. Were you guys worried about the defense yesterday? I mean, I'm not. Again, we're going to do a segment in a minute where we talk about, are we worried about the defense on a big picture scale? I didn't look at yesterday as any kind of surprise. When you go in knowing you're without 2 corners, so by the time you get to the fourth quarter, you're not with your fourth corner. You're down to your 5th corners now. You're throwing out guys who normally wouldn't be out there. It didn't worry me. Did it worry you?
Not a great deal because, as you mentioned, you're without 2 safeties. You also were without your 2 starting defensive tackles. So you're still down players that when they return, you're going to get better. There were a few missed tackles along the way that I had a concern about. But the other part of that is you gave up 1.2 yards per rush. And not all of that was sack yards. I think on running back plays, they averaged about 2.0.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn good. So you held your own in that regard. And by the way, Dilfer's a pretty good coach who can exploit a team in the passing game some. And they did that, but mostly that was in the second half. So I wasn't greatly concerned.
Well, and they, as you mentioned, they stopped the run game, but it was also, they threw 51 times. That was a pretty, and that's what their offense does. They throw the ball over all of the yards, so it's one-dimensional attack. So I'm not sitting there going, oh my gosh, look how many yards they threw for it. Yeah, but they had to throw 51 passes to get it. You're not going to face a lot of SEC competition that'll throw 51 times on you. Josh, your thoughts on the defense yesterday?
Yeah, so concern I would take out of it would be their touchdown drive in the second quarter. there were still issues with Tennessee's defense that we were talking about last week. Communication issues, excuse me, in the secondary, tackling issues in open field. Against UAB, that's not going to end up mattering because Tennessee's going to have such an advantage. Against Jeff Levy's offense or an SEC offense that can see those mistakes, take advantage of miscues on the back end, and exploit it with SEC athletes, that could become a problem. So if Tennessee can get to the quarterback, if Tennessee can generate pressure, then that can take that away. But if they're not getting to the opposing quarterback, an offensive coach like Jeff Levy or others that they'll face as the season goes along, they could exploit those issues.